So in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about GitHub Actions, and also we are going to be going through a demo and we are going to be creating a workflow, setting up GitHub Actions from the scratch. Basically, GitHub Action is something that helps you to automate your source control process, be it build or test or release or deployment. So you want to automate this process based on certain actions that may occur. For instance, when a new code comes in, somebody pushes a code into your repository, you want to check, you want to do a test or run a build, and if this build passes, then you want to merge this pull request that comes in. So there are a number of actions that can trigger the workflow. When we say workflow, GitHub Action is made up of workflows. Workflows is a simply specification of steps, what's going to happen when a particular event occurs. So let's take it step by step. It's going to be a practical course, so let's do it step by step. So we are going to create a SpringBoot application. I already have one. Push it to GitHub, set up a CI, a Java with CI Maven workflow, and then we are going to use Linter. Then we are going to do multiple operating system to automatically run a test in multiple operating system. And let's see how this works. I'd like to recommend you subscribe to my channel if you've not subscribed, because this kind of motivates me and also it helps me to know that you are there. If you have some challenges, please do leave me a comment. Also follow me on my social network profile on GitHub. You can also see a whole lot of free tutorials or free applications you can use for learning. So the first thing we want to do now is to create an application, and I already have a SpringBoot application which is built with Maven. So I'm going to place this window side by side with the step by step. So this is step by step. If you want to find the steps with all the code snippets you need, you can always go to kindturnthegenius.com. If you go to kindturnthegenius.com, you can always find this. I also put a link to this step-by-step page in the description box of this video. Just under this video, you can find a link to this page. All right. So the first thing we want to do, let me increase the font a little bit. We want to create a SpringBoot application. I've created this SpringBoot application. It's really a very funny application because I was trying to build Facebook at some point. So if so what I'm going to do is to run the build command for this application. Play my console. So the Maven build command is npm clean install. That's going to build, test, and generate the jar file for this project. So if you have a SpringBoot application with Maven, you can always run npm clean install. So this is going to run the build and the test, and this is always something that needs to be done when you have a code being checked into your repository. So you see it's running the test, and now everything worked perfectly well. So that means that if I run this application, it's going to work. So if I run this application, it's also going to trigger the build and generate the jar file and also run it at the same time. So I think it runs at port 8080. So I'm going to simply open a new browser window, and let me just show you this funny application. I was actually trying to create something like Facebook, but I never had time to complete it. HTTP localhost port 8080 at port 8080. So now you can see that this is the application we are talking about. So it's not working perfectly well at this point because I actually abandoned it at some point. So this is the application, is a basic application. So, but you can use any application you have on your system. Okay, so I'm going to stop this application. Now we are going to go to GitHub and create a repository for this application. So let's go to GitHub and create a repository and then push this the application to GitHub. Now these steps are actually specified right here. So I already know them, so that's why I'm just reading them. So let's go back here. So you have create a new SpringBoot application. I've done it in the terminal. Run this clean install, make sure it works successfully. And then we are going to create a repository and then push this application to GitHub. So right now I'm in my GitHub profile, and I'm going to simply create a new repository. I'm going to give the repository the same name like this application, which is climate app. So I'm going to say new repository. I'm going to call it climate climate_app. Okay, so I'm going to say demo for GitHub Actions. Okay, so there is a demo repository for GitHub Actions, right? Okay, so I'm going to simply create this repository. It's a public repository, and now I'm going to simply copy all of these and use it on my local system in the terminal. So let me just open a new terminal right here. I'm going to clear my console using, I think I can use Command L, Control L. Okay, great. So I'm going to paste all of these, and it created an empty repository, and it's going to push this repository from this local repository to Git. So if I refresh this right now, we have our repository is set up right here, but it's empty. Okay. So IntelliJ quit for what? Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to just reopen it. I don't know why. Okay, so we have our repository right here, but now we need to push the application from local repository to remote repository. So I'm going to simply say git star, and I'm going to say git commit -n new commit. Let me just call it first commit. Okay, and I'm now going to do git push origin master, and this is going to push all the code base from local to remote. Okay, so it takes a bit of time, but it's complete. And at this point, if I go here to refresh this page, you can see that we have all the files available now. Okay, so now time to set up GitHub repository, GitHub Actions. Now there are different GitHub Action workflows you can set up. So depending on the application you're working with, Maven is a build tool I'm using here. You can use. There's also workflow for Gradle, different from Maven. There's workflow for Node application, for React applications, and there's a whole lot of a plethora of workflows that you can use. But let's look at it in practice at this time. So let's go to GitHub Action. Remember what I told you, that we want, when something happens, we want to trigger a build to build this project. And so a workflow is simply a YAML file saved in your repository, and you're going to see exactly how it works. So in the step-by-step, we click on these actions, and we are going to look for Java with Maven. This is a typo, so it's actually Java with Maven. So I'm going to maybe scroll down. Normally try to detect what your project is and try to suggest workflows you can use. So actually creating GitHub Actions means creating workflows. So now I don't see anything here, so I don't see, but you can actually view all. But the easiest way maybe just to type Maven or type Java, and you can see we have Java with Maven. So I'm going to click on configure. So now you can see exactly what a workflow file looks like. So there is a workflow file. You don't have to actually write this code manually, because there are a whole lot of templates you can use. All you need to do is just to modify. So here says on push or pull request. So when someone pushes a code to this repository, you want to trigger this workflow. And what's going to happen is going to run the build, right? It's going to run the build, which we already did. So npm -b package file.xml. So there is a build command that actually runs, okay? It's going to use the checkout, it's going to set up the SDK and do a whole lot of things you really don't need to worry about. So the thing you need to worry about or need to know is that it runs on Ubuntu. Later we're going to set it up to run on Mac or on Windows in parallel. And you also need to know that it happens on push and also on pull request. So you can actually remove one of them the way you want it. And there are other events as well, but for now these are the two common events that most likely you are going to stick with. Okay, so let's see. So at this point, the workflow is a YAML file that's being saved in a specific directory in your repository. In this case, the specific directory is .github/workflows, and maven.yaml is the name of the file. So the next thing you want to do is to simply click on Start Commit. It's going to simply take this file and put it in the workflow in the directory in your system, in your repository. Okay, so it commits this file, meaning that it pushes it. And if I go to Actions at this time, you can see that we have this. What you have here, it says is running the workflow. It's running the workflow because we actually committed a new file, which is actually the YAML file itself. And you can actually go into it, and you can see, drill down into it to see the details of what's happening. It's set up, did the set up the job run, check out, set up the SDK, and also is building now with Maven, and is downloading all the dependencies. And if the build succeeds, it's going to have a green check mark against the build. And let's see, so let's just scroll down. So it's doing its thing, and I think it should work fine. So let's give it a second. We actually don't need to be. Okay, so it's built successfully. It post setup SDK, run, and now you can see it is green, meaning that it works. Now that runs our workflow. Now I have the workflow, one workflow, which is Java CI with Maven. Now let's go and push a code. Let's go and push a code. Let's make some changes, push it, and then see if this workflow is going to trigger. So I'm going here. First, I'm going to pull because we need to pull the changes. So I'm going to say git pull, and yeah, so we have the changes right here, I think. So we have this file right here. So let's make some changes. So let me just copy these and paste and just make a little change and push and see if it actually triggers this workflow. So let me call it users to, and this is get users to, and this is the changes we made. So I'm going to save and commit. So I'm going to say git add start, git add start, and I'm going to say git commit minus and created new user methods or endpoints. So this is an endpoint. Okay, so I'm going to just commit this file and say git push origin master. Let's see, git push origin master. So there's a typo here, which is git push origin master. Okay, so we push. Let's go and now check if it actually triggers the workflow. So if I go to Github Actions, you can see it triggered the workflow immediately, as you can see, and it's running the build one more time. So what you can try is to try to create something that fails. For instance, if I go to this file, let's say I try to change something and actually fail it. So let's say we call this, find a reason, I'm going to just copy this and just paste this. And there's an error in this file at this point, so I'm going to save it, and I'm going to say git add start git commit minus n failing commit. Okay, so this it contains error, so the build likely is going to fail, but I'm pushing it to the repository anyway. So I'm going to say git push origin master. Now we expect it to actually fail when it triggers the GitHub action triggers. So now it's okay. Now it begins to run. Let's see if it works or not. By the way, we can actually continue our step by step. GitHub Actions using Super Linter. Now this you can actually do all by yourself. So add a new workflow, simply find the Super Linter from the list. So let's go to check. So this failed, as you can see right here. So it means that somebody's trying to commit a code that actually breaks the build. And in this case, if it's a pull request, you are not going to actually merge this code. So in case of Super Linter, you can actually look for Super Linter here. Super Linter is simply a tool to check for your code for consistency, actually to make sure your code is syntactically correct. It depends. There are a whole lot of Super Linter for different code bases, for C++, for Java, for HTML, for a whole lot of things we can think of. Actually type on the linter and I have a number of them. So you try out this yourself, do this linter, this will be super linter, which is this one for several languages, add it and then see how it works. Now the next thing I want to show you is to have an action that runs concurrently on different operating systems. So let me first correct this error. Okay, so now let me commit first, save everything, and I'm going to commit. I'm gonna just call it fixed a bug and say git push origin master. Okay, so in this case it will pass the test. So what I want to now show you, if I go back to our actions, we want to run it on 3 different operating systems. So if I come back here at this point, we want to edit this workflow, or we can actually add a new workflow. So let me simply add a new workflow. So let's see. So new workflow, I'm going to call it Maven. So let's add the same workflow. See, so we have Java with Maven. I'm going to configure. This time I'm going to call it, it's going to be Maven 2 because we already have Maven. Now I want it to run on 3 different operating systems. You see this, it runs on Ubuntu latest, but you want to see if it actually runs on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux and Ubuntu. So you have to change the runs on. This is the runs on. You have to change it to run on. Of course, you have to specify the strategy. It will be matrix. Matrix means several or multiple operating systems. So in this runs on, I'm going to simply replace it with this code here. It runs on matrix.os, and matrix is a list of OS operating systems, Ubuntu latest, Windows latest, and Mac OS latest. And so at this point, I'm going to simply commit this file. So we have a new workflow we are creating now. By the way, if I go back to actions, we have fixed bulk work. So this created 2 workflows. Now, actually, I don't know why it created these 2 workflows. So let's see. Okay, so it's trying to run the build. Now, this new workflow I created is going to trigger on push or pull request, right? So for now, I've not pushed anything. So, okay, so this is just one. So if I go back to my code base to push a new code, so let me say I call this, so let me just change something really small. Again, maybe I can just call it user 3. I call this user 3 for instance, and I'm going to save it and then I'm going to push. So clear my console, git add start, git commit, -m. I'm going to say added a little change. I'm going to save and now I'm going to push git push origin master. And now this should trigger this workflow. Or what happened? Okay, I think I need to do a pull first. Okay, so if I go back to the actions now, okay, so at this point you can see 3 jobs have started now. We have the build for Ubuntu, build for Windows, and build for Mac. So you can see that now we set up the build to actually run on 3 different operating systems in parallel. So I'm going to be stopping here. So this is basically how GitHub Actions work. It's simple, it's very easy. You don't have to write the YAML file yourself. There are a whole lot of them, so simply go there. If you go to new workflow, you have a whole lot of them, literally dozens of them. You can say view all. You can always find exactly what you want. So I'd like to thank you for viewing. Please remember to follow strictly step by step and make sure you complete this. If you have challenges following, please leave me a comment in the comment box below this video. And I'd like to also remind you to subscribe to my channel, like and share this video if it's been informative for you. If you want, you can connect with me on my social network profile on LinkedIn or Github or anywhere. You can always connect with me. Let's talk. I remain Times on the Tech Pro, and I'm always there for you.